Now to our top story. The United States and China kick off trade talks in Washington tomorrow. China is ready to discuss a partial trade deal and will increase U.S. agricultural purchases. This is according to a Bloomberg report. And I want to introduce today's panel, Lending Tree Chief Economist Tendayi Kapfidze, Yahoo Finance's Akiko Fujita, and also joining us is Tom Kehoe, U.S. Department of Agriculture Trade Advisor, also the CEO of Kingsbridge Strategies. And let's start, Tom, with you and what's happening on the agriculture front, because that seems to be what the reporting is saying will be a place where common ground can be found maybe as early as this week. Does that make sense to you?
Well, no pun intended with the NBA controversy, but it's a layup. It's an easy lift for both sides. $3 billion in ag purchases doesn't even move the needle when the Trump administration, our government's given out $28 billion to subsidize the farmers through this trade war. So I think China's going to have to pony up a little bit more than $3 billion to whet the appetite of the USTR. I mean, Larry Kudlow the other day, they were talking about some of the trade purchases. He says, yeah, that's nice. That's mood music for the trade talk. So we'll see. You know, there's a lot at stake here, a lot more than $3 billion in ag purchases.
I mean, what would that accomplish?
What
would additional ag purchases accomplish? I mean, I keep thinking back to where we were in June, the last time President Trump and Xi Jinping met. This is exactly what was on the table, where the Chinese essentially came to the table and said, look, we're willing to buy more ag products, just don't add additional tariffs.
Well, look, I think there's a lot more at stake now. When we were talking about this inside, Tendayi and I, before we came on the camera, and I've been saying this for months, nobody thought that the Hong Kong situation would be in the front and center on the global stage, but it is now. And now you add the NBA controversy in the middle, and I think the free world is starting to see what an authoritarian dictatorship really looks like. It's not pretty. It's pretty. China, and shame on them, they're showing their ugly side to the world right now. Look, we could make a deal with them today, and then what? They send the troops in and crack everyone's skull open in Hong Kong? That's not going to benefit them. So I think the younger people in the United States, look, I lived through the Soviet Union. You know, I've seen some of the ugly sides of authoritarian dictatorships and the last vestiges of it. It's not pretty, and I don't think we in America could ever live with that sort of repercussion. So I don't think our administration wants regime change, and I think the president has said that. We're not advocating for regime change, but some of the things we're asking them to take the pivot on are pretty strong for them to consider.
So Tom, you have a deep understanding of the agricultural sector, which I think even in this economy, most people are not that tuned into. How much permanent damage, if any, is being done despite the subsidies to this industry and this sector, with, I guess, some farms, going bankrupt, going out of business, or maybe losing some of their expertise?
Well, look, the farming sector is a tough sector. Over in my lifetime, there's been a tremendous consolidation. You know, when I used to grow up as a little kid, my father was a city policeman, and he went to law school at night, and my mother would tell me, shh, your dad's asleep, go on in and watch television on the weekends. And the 6 a.m. show was The Modern Farmer. It was a half-hour black and white TV show on grain farming in the Kansas wheat fields. The family farms are done. You know, it's all big, Cargill, ConAgra, it's all big conglomerates now. So I don't think you're seeing a lot of bankruptcies there's still a consolidation in the farm sector. But something's got to be done to help them. Look, part of this deal is pivotal to the farm sector. They all voted for the president. It's a lot more than just grain. But China needs us, and I've said this before. They can't feed their people. The 1.4 billion are not being supported by the Chinese farms. The younger Chinese don't want to be farmers anymore. Grandpa was a farmer. The younger Chinese have moved to the city, as in Japan too. They don't want to be farmers.
As you pointed out, many farmers have supported President Trump. Do you think if there is a deal, and it involves agriculture, but it's not a full deal, it's just there's a partial deal, that they will continue to support the president, or has their supply chain been disrupted so much that there is lasting pain there?
Well, look, not every farm state, you can Google it while we're talking, not every farm state went for Trump, but most of them did. Minnesota didn't, Illinois didn't. There's some, what we would call now purple states, So the purple states didn't go for Trump, and they're still big farming states. But most of the Farm Belt is a red state, and I think, what he stands for is fundamentally what they stand for in their gut. So I don't think they're going to abandon him.
Thank you for the update, U.S. Department of Agriculture Trade Advisor Tom Kehoe.
Thanks very much for having me.